Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Brill, and today we're going to get deeper into the world of accessibility with Alaina Beaver, who is our accessibility expert here at ServiceNow. Alaina, it's so great to have you here.
So great to be here, Bobby. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you because this world of accessibility and this world of conformance and usability and all of this things that so many of us kind of put on the back burner for so long have kind of gone, wait a second, this is a real thing, an important thing, and an important real thing that we now have to deal with every day.
Absolutely.
How do we do that?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be back and talk with you again. It's always a pleasure. And today I'm excited to jump into sort of what's new now in the world of accessibility.
Right, because now is constantly changing.
Now is constantly changing. We always have something new to be able to talk about. You're never done when it comes to digital accessibility, as much as I think some people would like to think of it as a checkbox or like a one and done. Well, we fixed it and now we can just, put it to bed. That's never the case. Accessibility, like our technology, is constantly evolving. And so we have to remain vigilant and we have to remain informed. And so there have been some changes since the last time we talked, and would love to dive into some of the things that are new.
Before we get deep into this, because I want you to give us your title, because that's even going to make it easier for everyone to understand. Because again, this accessibility concept is so far reaching.
Absolutely. So, yes, hello and welcome. My name is Alaina Beaver. I use she, her pronouns, and I have the pleasure of holding the role of Global Head of Accessibility Customer Engagement on the accessibility product team at ServiceNow.
This is a big deal. So, I'm going to do my best to not babble as much, but have you tell us what is new in this world of accessibility and how ServiceNow has really leveled up.
Our big news is that we have upped our conformance standard as a company. So if you go on to servicenow.com and you go down to the bottom of the footer, which is traditionally the place where these things are kept, you'll find our accessibility statement. Now, we always try to be as upfront as possible with all of our accessibility information at ServiceNow. We are an open book. We want you to find our info and use our info and let it work for you. And so we are excited to announce that we are committed to aligning with the global WCAG, as it's called, but WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.2 AA. Those are the most stringent guidelines in the world for accessibility conformance. Lots of legislation out there is still adhering to the previous standard, which is level 2.1 AA. And but these standards are cumulative. And so the most recent one was released just a little while ago. And we know that legislation often takes a little bit of a lag time, and there's a bit of a gap between standards being released and then legislation being passed because it takes time for people to pass bills and provide motions and debate and do all the things that legislation does in various different countries. But now we are arriving. We are starting to be at that point where different legislatures in different countries and precincts around the world are starting to adhere to 2.2. And we have been aligning our work to 2.2 and testing for 2.2 internally for quite some time. But now we are committing publicly to upholding 2.2 with our customers and doing everything that we can do to ensure that they remain in conformance.
Now, what does that mean for customers that were just getting up to, it was 2.1 AA, correct? Was the
Yeah.
previous one? So what does that mean for customers that are, just getting to that level? How are they going to be able to continue on, or what are any steps they need to take?
Well, I mean, the good news is that for customers who live in a place where their baseline requirement is 2.1 AA, it means that they are ahead of the game. Now they can kind of sit back and relax and rest assured that when 2.2 does become the norm wherever they are, that they are already sitting pretty in a place of being conformant when it comes to all of their ServiceNow technology. And so that's the benefit from people who are 2.1. So because we're now aligning to 2.2, there are a couple of additional guidelines that are part of those sets of regulations that now we are ensuring that we uphold within our technology. And so that is it's always our North Star. Are we 100% perfect all of the time? No, probably not. The reality is that, we are a huge software platform and we have a lot of products and we have a lot of different teams and processes and people that are part of making those products and upholding the conformance of those products and ensuring that we're building them accessibly. But internally to ServiceNow, we've done a remarkable job of really leveling up our training and support for our own internal teams and continually challenging ourselves as a company to put accessibility first.
And that should be a goal, and that should be one of our primary goals in all the things that we do, because I think in past conversations we've had in past podcasts, and as we're all learning this, because I'm gonna ask you what some of those, um, new guidelines are just to give people an idea. We all work on a device. We all live on a device or 3 or 7.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And to be honest with you, for most users, you're not going to see a huge difference between WCAG 2.1 AA and WCAG 2.2 AA. And a lot of that is because the work of accessibility can be really subtle and it's cumulative. And so we've been building on these best practices for a long time. And in fact, these recommendations had been previously part of the web content accessibility guidelines, but now they've been put in as like, okay, now instead of being a recommendation or a level AAA requirement, now it's becoming a AA requirement. And so it's just sort of moving up that priority line into something that's now becoming enforced. So you have things like focus not obscured, which means that ensuring that your keyboard focus indicators remain at least partially visible. And so, as people are moving their mouse around or tabbing or going through with an technology device like a screen reader, that focus is remaining visible at all times. Um, Things like target size minimum, that if you have something that's clickable, that you have a minimum target size of what those interactive elements are so that you don't have teeny, teeny, tiny little things that users are supposed to discover, and be able to interact with. So it's things like that that ultimately for most people just sort of ring as like, oh, well, that's just good common sense. Isn't that just good design? Yes. Yes, it is.
Well, I was thinking when you said design, I mean, I think back 30 years ago? Well, let's say 20. I'm gonna say 20. I don't wanna say 30. That makes me sound old. But 20 years ago when, you were designing web content and designing things that we looked at on a screen, it was like, how cool can we make something look? And usability was way down the road of what we
Oh,
were
yeah.
thinking, 'cause only certain people are gonna be using this, so we're not gonna include everybody. But now, as we know, we're all using this device is constantly, and you gotta be able to use it well. It seems so silly when we joke about it.
Exactly. Well, and now, I mean, when the web was first developed, everybody is on a computer and you have your one computer for your whole household, right? And you would sit down and and you would log on and there would be flash animations and all sorts of like, things that were distracting or potentially challenging and a lot of really
How cool could you find the enter button, and how cool could we
right?
make something? It was like, "Well, I can't get in there." Well,
It's like you have to play a little game before like
yes.
you get to the button or something like that. Yeah,
Ah, the bad old days.
exactly. Oh my gosh.
But there's a bigger aspect to this, which I think is far more important and really interesting, is that this is now legislation, and you'd mentioned legislation both statewide and internationally. I mean, this is we're all kind of coming together to make this work. Give us a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, to kind of carry on from what we were last saying, now because our digital experiences are connecting every part of our day, right? The website or the application that you interact with on your computer, on your sit down computer screen, you're also accessing on your mobile device or on your tablet. And we have multiple modes for interacting with those different screens and devices, and they all need to connect seamlessly. And it's all part of that ecosystem that is the world of work. And so there do need to be standards for how these things operate and behave across different platforms and how we design so that a broad range of people can use them regardless of what kind of assistive technology they might need. Or you and I are glasses wearers, so we wear our assistive technology every day, right? And a lot of people are aging into disability, and so it becomes more and more important that we think of that really broad range of users. And now, in fact, governments are holding us accountable for these kinds of standards to ensure that everyone truly has that equitable access. And so, different governments around the world are adhering to some sort of accessibility law. In general, all of them map to those web content accessibility guidelines, at least 2.1 AA, because 2.1 AA has been around for a long time. It's been, you know, kind of a hot minute in the accessibility world since there's been a new release of some standards where everybody's gone, aha, like, all right, these are codified. This is real. All right. So now that that has happened, legislation has in most parts of the world kind of been like, okay, we've been working on leveling up, we've been working on passing different requirements. And in pocket places, it's been upheld to the 2.2 standard faster than in larger government sectors. And part of that is just the speed at which government works and how fast state level government, for example, in the States, is able to enforce adherence to WCAG 2.2 versus 2.1. And so you have a handful of states in the US, like California, like Colorado, um, who are already um, looking at enforcing 2.2 in some regard. And so you have, different states that are taking it much more seriously and are asking about accessibility as part of their procurement processes for new technology. And so they're expecting vendors to be able to produce those updated web content accessibility guideline, voluntary product accessibility template documents where they state where they stand and say, hey, yeah, we've done testing for accessibility on our products and we're here to tell you all about it. And that's why we try to make all of that documentation as transparent as possible. And we have a whole big section of our documentation site devoted to our accessibility conformance reports, which are released every release by product family and by product. And so you can kind of search them and from past releases or whatever you're looking for. And our team's always happy to help parse that information because it can be quite challenging.
So that brings us to some great products that we have and that are just going to make everyone's life immensely better. And I know a little bit about them and you're going to explain them better than I can, that they're so important that it seems like, why hasn't anybody thought of this before? And thankfully we have technology and our good friend AI to make a lot of this happen. But I want to have you first give us a little taste of AI voice input for accessibility, because that's a big one.
Yeah. If you're experiencing the world through your ears, there's a lot of stuff you have to listen to just to orient where you are on the page so that when you do make a change or, activate something, engage with anything that is live and clickable within the UI, that you're doing the right things and making the right changes and having the work execute the way you intend. And so in order to just navigate through a really complex UI, the way that many of our ServiceNow, portals and workspaces are, it can be a lot on the ears, even with keyboard shortcuts and even with proper heading structure and all of the other things that we do to ensure that the keyboard experience and screen reader user experience is fully navigable. It can just be a lot. It can be a lot to have to listen to. And so to streamline all of that and to just have it be conversational and have Now Assist and using AI, have it summarizing complex pieces of information, soon having it summarize complex data visualizations. That's something that's coming next. The hashtag safe harbor. The ways that we're trying to re-envision and keep pushing the envelope for how can AI help create a much more seamless experience for how people are engaging with complex information and how it can simplify and really hypercharge their workflows so they're maximizing their efficiency and productivity. That can all be done through accessibility features. And now it's a matter of just letting people know about it.
I'm gonna say this, and somebody else said it, so I stole it from them, and I don't remember who it is, so they get no credit. But this science fiction is now science reality, and it's so cool because, you know, when when the first time you hear accessibility and you think of that's not me.
Mhm.
But then, I have glasses, you get older, we work on 7 screens, we have all these things where it's like, I need to do my job, and it's like, well, these accessibility tools work both ways and help everybody. And if we're all going to use them, then we are all going to make it better for all of us, which just makes life easier.
Exactly, yes.
So that brings us, of course, to this next one, which is a different part of accessibility that we don't often think about, but I know you've got some great statistics that are going to make us think a lot more about it, and that is text adjust. Explain that to me and just why this is such an important tool for all of us in the future of digital work.
Absolutely, would love to. So I love Text Adjust. I have such a soft spot for this little tool. It's such a humble little piece of functionality and don't tell, but it's actually not an AI tool. This is just a humble little Chromium-based web browser extension that anybody can get for free because we are giving it away for free. And so we are in the process of building this functionality directly into the ServiceNow platform. It's going to live with all the other accessibility settings so that you can just toggle it on or off. And what it does is it modifies all of the text within a UI in dynamic ways. And the idea is that it's helping to make things more readable. Well, as people who are not screen reader users, we are probably experiencing the world through our eyes and reading content that we're then clicking on and doing our work, etc. And so when you have some kind of situation where reading comprehension is somewhat challenging for you, or maybe even very challenging for you, then that is also a disability. It might be a learning processing disorder or a cognitive disability, or maybe you're just low vision and you need to modify text so that you can literally see it better and comprehend it better. And so our team developed what we affectionately refer to as our neurodiversity tool. And this is specifically designed to support people who are neurodivergent. And the amazing thing about this, Bobby, this grew out of a research finding that just sort of bowled us over in our team, which is that according to EY and Text Help, released in 2023, um, 53% of Gen Z self identify as neurodivergent. With that self awareness comes self enablement. You are now able to hack your own brain. And if you get curious about how you learn best or how you work best, which this new generation, they're interested. They are digital natives and they are all about creating efficiencies and modifying their digital experience to create a custom experience. And that's what accessibility is all about as well. And so, what Text Adjust does is it allows you to change the font into one of 4 research-based, neurodiversity friendly, dyslexia friendly fonts. And so suddenly you can go from a more complicated font in a web page to Atkinson Hyperlegible or Open Dyslexic or Open Sans and have a font that is suddenly a lot easier on the eyes. We can just open up the space in that UI and suddenly it's like oh my gosh, this is so much easier on my eyes. I can skim this better. I can read it better. If you're dyslexic and you actually need the weight on the bottom of your characters to anchor you in the words so that you complete the words and understand them, it helps with completion and with cognition.
So, before we go, you teased us with an Easter egg. So come on, tell
I
me what
know.
tell me what's going on.
ServiceNow, in partnership with the Global Accessibility Awareness Day Foundation, has developed the world's first, drum roll please, AI model accessibility checker. So you have accessibility checkers that are these digital tools, right? And you can run an accessibility checker on any website. Anybody can. There are free versions. They're called things like Wave and Axe. And you can run a checker and it'll let you know how accessible an interface is. Now, with the advent of everybody going crazy over AI, there's been a real concern around ethical AI, and that's its whole own topic. And we want to ensure that AI is being trained on correct information and that it's aware of accessibility standards. And so, what we have done is we've created a way for anyone who's using an AI model to run it through a free AI model accessibility checker that we host on GitHub, and it's completely free. We just want to it's open source. We want people to take it and steal it and use it and run their own accessibility quirks on their AIs that they're creating, especially as there are more and more proprietary LLMs that are coming into play. And so we would love at ServiceNow for you to use our LLM and to be engaging with us on the Now platform on the power of our AI that is homegrown. We are really proud of it. We think it does a really good job. But if you are using other more established models, then you can go to we call it the AIMAC, AIMAC.ai. That's a web address that will take you to the leaderboard where you can publicly see how some of these very commonly used AI models score, essentially. And if you are going to just out of the box pick an AI model, might as well pick one that scores well, right? So let's all try to be aware that different models are better or worse at adhering to and reminding users of accessibility standards. And so, if we have the ability to be using AI for good, which we do, let's ensure that we're using it accessibly. And so, would love for all of our listeners to go check out that free tool and to start using AI accessibly.
Alaina Beaver and ServiceNow daring the world to do the right thing. A pleasure to talk to you as always, Alaina.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure is always all mine, Bobby. I so appreciate it.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. I'm your host, Bobby Brill, and we're going to have all that information in the show notes, all the links to some of the great tools that Alaina has mentioned and some of the things at ServiceNow. And of course, if you have any questions, head over to servicenow.com. Thanks for listening, everyone.